Hello, and welcome to First Intuition's presentation on the future of apprenticeships. My name is Amy Forrest, and I am a tutor at First Intuition Cambridge, and I also work there as the apprenticeship manager. As you may have heard, the future of apprenticeships is changing quite dramatically, and we at First Intuition are very excited about what's to come. So in this presentation, what we want to do is go over the main facts surrounding the new apprenticeship scheme and actually what we're going to be doing at First Intuition. There is a chat box on the right. Please do ask questions as we go along. We have a member of staff there to answer your questions as we go through. But there's also time at the end of this session for me to answer any questions that you raise. After this session's ended, there'll also be an online drop-in Q&A session, still on this same recording, same lecture. Okay, so what we want to cover then, the agenda that we are going to be going through in this presentation. We want to be starting with the apprenticeship standards, that is the new apprenticeship scheme. We'll be going through the funding criteria and what's to come with the apprenticeship levy and so on. We'll be going into the eligibility for apprenticeships, what criteria they need to meet to become an apprentice. We'll be going through the learner journey, i.e. the journey that the apprentice will take from when they sign up to their apprenticeship to when they complete their apprenticeship. And we'll talk a bit about the current status of standards and whether they have been approved yet for delivery. We'll then go a bit into about apprenticeships with First Intuition and what we offer and why would be a good choice for your apprenticeship delivery. After that, like I said, there'll be time for questions, and then at the end there's our contact details if you think of any other questions after this presentation. So the first new change that will be coming in soon is the funding requirements. So from April, May time, the new funding requirements are as follows. Firstly, we have what's called a levy payer. So the government has introduced a new levy, and this levy applies to companies who have a payroll bill in excess of £3 million. If a company has a payroll bill in excess of £3 million, they are required to pay 0.5% of that payroll bill into an apprenticeship pot. Now, that comes with a £15,000 credit from the government. Essentially what that means is the first £3 million of your payroll bill is exempt from the levy. It's after that that the 0.5% would kick in. Now, what happens then, the government will top up that levy pot with 10%, so what you've put in, the government will add a further 10% into this levy pot. And then each company will then have this pot of money which they can then use for their apprenticeship training. A company will have 24 months to use that apprenticeship levy, and it's on a month-by-month rolling basis. If a company does not use up all of that levy pot, then it is lost and they can no longer use it. But that is on a month-by-month kind of rolling basis. In order to actually use this levy pot, we're going into what's called a digital apprenticeship service. And there you can pay the training provider using the money you've built up in your apprenticeship levy pot and pay the training provider directly. If you do use up your apprenticeship levy pot, then actually any excess training that you undertake, so any further apprenticeships that you put your students through, will be funded by the government on a 1-to-9 basis, i.e. the government will pay 90% of the training cost, the employer, the company, will pay 10%. So that's what's going to happen if your company is a levy payer, if your payroll bill is over £3 million. If you're a non-levy payer, i.e. a payroll bill of less than £3 million, then it is all co-funded on the 1-to-9 basis, i.e. again, the government pays 90% of the training costs and the employer pays 10% of the training costs. As you can see at the bottom there is additional funding available for if you take an apprentice that's less than 19, so 16 to 18, and you're a smaller employer, or if you're an employer employing somebody from a deprived area, and there's additional money available there for if the apprentice fits into those criteria. So those are the main changes to funding which are coming in the next couple of months. With regards to eligibility then, so the eligibility criteria for old apprenticeship schemes, which are sometimes called apprenticeship frameworks, was that the apprentice had to be aged between 16 and 24. So the big change now that the government has made with these apprenticeship standards is there is no age limit. The apprentice must be 16 plus. So this opens the market massively for people that want a career change, so want to change from an existing career to accountancy. And it also opens the gate a bit more now for people who are existing work in accounting, may have been working there for 10, 15 years, but want to upskill, but want to learn a new skill. And it kind of opens that up a little bit further. As it says here, apprenticeships are now extended to graduates with a non-relevant degree. So it used to be the case with apprenticeships that if you had a degree, you are not eligible for apprenticeship funding. Now the government has said if there is a non-relevant degree, so say for example somebody had a degree in geography and they decided they wanted to switch careers to become an accountant, then they would still be eligible for that apprenticeship funding. Now you'll note here there's a bit of a to be confirmed bubble, and that to be confirmed bubble is around what's called level 7 apprenticeships, which is your full ICAEW, CIMA and ACCA qualifications. Now that TBC bubble is there because there's a bit that needs to be confirmed with regards to what types of degree would mean you're ineligible, i.e. is there still a type of accounting and finance degree which could mean you may still be eligible for funding for your full ICAEW, ACCA and CIMA. That still needs to be confirmed, and that will be confirmed in a future presentation. The last piece regarding eligibility then is that they have to be resident in England. So a much more simplified version of the eligibility criteria, and I think it's going to massively open up the market for, as I said, existing people wanting a new career, regardless of age and regardless of their degree. So quite big changes there. This next slide then talks about the learner journey, and you can see at the top it goes from where the apprentice starts and when they start their apprenticeship right through to what's called this endpoint assessment, which when they pass this endpoint assessment means that they have completed their apprenticeship. I'll be going through each of these individually, but what's going to happen first things first when the apprentice starts is that we and you as the employer, so First Intuition and you as the employer, will be signing a commitment statement about getting this apprentice through their apprenticeship and so on. First Intuition would be setting a study plan, setting when they would be coming on courses, setting when we'd expect them to sit their exams, setting how long we expect them to take on their apprenticeships and so on. And after that is what will constitute the apprenticeship starting. After that, we then move on to the on-programme learning. So what we're talking about with on-programme learning is where the apprentice is actually with us training in their accounting skills, but also training in their additional business skills. So as it says here, what we will be doing through the on-programme learning section of an apprentice's learner journey is we'll be providing the courses, we'll be assisting the apprentice with what's called a training log, and we'll talk about that in a second, and obviously we'll be continuing to provide the additional support, tutor contact, progress reviews that we do at the moment. What the employer will have to do during this on-programme learning is that where the apprentice is actually training to be an accountant, they'll be continuing with internal appraisals of that apprentice, they'll be providing internal training, and obviously providing that on-the-job learning via work experience and providing opportunities for that apprentice to progress. So a little bit more about the on-programme learning then. And I think the main thing to point out at this stage is that the only requirement under the new apprenticeship standards is that an apprentice has to sit what's called an endpoint assessment. So when I think about apprenticeships before and the apprenticeship framework, they were very much hung upon a particular qualification. So for example, you would have an AAT level 3 apprenticeship, and the apprenticeship was all about achieving that AAT level 3 qualification. Now the government is much more involved in switching their focus towards getting an apprentice ready for work. And as such, the apprenticeship standards are now all about getting ready for a job role. So, for example, the level 3 apprenticeship standard is called assistant accountant. And it's all about the requirements to get that person, get that apprentice ready to work as an assistant accountant. Now, because of that, the apprenticeships are no longer linked to a specific qualification. The only requirement is to sit this endpoint assessment, and we'll talk about what that endpoint assessment is later. However, having said that, we will still at First Intuition be offering the usual study routes, i.e. if we are having somebody that wants to go for a level 3 assistant accountant apprenticeship, then we would put them through the AAT level 3 courses. So for all intents and purposes, an apprentice would think it looks exactly the same as before because they would be on exactly the same courses that they would have been under the old apprenticeship rules. The other big thing to note here with regards to this on-programme learning is that level 2, i.e. AAT level 2, is no longer supported as a separate apprenticeship. We'll discuss more later what First Intuition are doing with regards to that level 2 no longer being a separate apprenticeship. So with regards to this on-programme learning then, another requirement of the new apprenticeship standards is that 20% of the apprentice's time has to be dedicated to off-the-job learning. Now, a couple of kind of myths about that then. First thing to note, I think the tendency is to see that 20% equates to 1 out of 5 working days in a week. And that's the first thing I want to say. It is not that the apprentice has to be out of the office on a course every Monday throughout the whole year. That is not how that 20% is worked out. It's looked at over the student's year. So it could be done in block release, which may fit the courses better and so on. So it doesn't have to be that 1 day a week, which may be more onerous on businesses. I think as well, when people first hear about that 20%, it sounds quite onerous. It sounds like it could be a lot for an apprentice, but I think by the time you've added up the time on courses, by the time you've added up other types of off-the-job learning, which would include things like coming and actually sitting the exam, any paid study leave that an apprentice is given to get ready for those exams, any other kind of internal training courses or internal CPD courses, all of those kind of things will classify as off-the-job learning. And actually, when you actually go and analyse it for the apprentices, I think we get there fairly quickly. The other thing with the on-programme learning is, because I was saying before about how the government is switching focus to now thinking about getting an apprentice ready for a job role, apprentices are also now required at all levels of an apprenticeship to build a portfolio of workplace knowledge, skills and behaviours. So this is building up a lot of the soft skills that are so important these days in the workplace environment. Things like, can the apprentice work within a team? Can they organise their own time and work effectively? Can they undertake a presentation? All of those additional skills that actually I think set people apart these days, set people apart from the qualification versus having the qualification and these additional skills. This portfolio of workplace knowledge, skills and behaviours will need to be started by the apprentice from the first day of their apprenticeship. So they need to be building up this portfolio of how they have developed these skills and behaviours at work. However, we at First Intuition will also be running additional skills days over the duration of the apprenticeship programme to help them build that portfolio. The on-programme learning then, the other main thing to note, under the existing apprenticeship framework, we undertake regular monthly catch-ups with apprentices to check on their progress, and we undertake more formal 10-weekly progress reviews where we discuss with the apprentice how they've been getting on over the last 3 months and setting them some targets for the forthcoming few months. And that continues under the new apprenticeship scheme. So those catch-ups and progress reviews, which I think are very, very valuable, will be continuing into the future. So that's a bit about the on-programme learning. So quite a bit different with regards to that portfolio of workplace knowledge, skills and behaviours, but we will be supporting that here at First Intuition. Next thing I want to talk about then is what's called the gateway. Now what this gateway is when us at First Intuition, you as the employer and the apprentice sit down and consider whether that apprentice is ready to sit their endpoint assessment, their end exams. Have they completed the relevant work-based evidence? Have they completed the relevant tuition courses and accountancy training to progress through to sit their final exam? Now, first thing to note, before this assessment can take place, the apprentice must have been on programme for 12 months and a day, i.e. they have to have been coming to us to courses, they have to have been undertaking their portfolio evidence for 12 months and a day since they signed up as an apprentice. What that necessarily means then is apprenticeships, I think the kind of minimum time you're looking at for an apprenticeship is 15 months to complete from start to finish. But we'll talk a little bit further about durations of apprenticeships later on. I think it's important to note here that it is you as the employer that makes the final decision about whether this apprentice is ready to sit their endpoint assessment. And I think this is when it becomes important, this idea that even though the only requirement of an apprenticeship is to sit the endpoint assessment, I think it also shows the benefit of actually saying, well, this student, this apprentice will still need to sit all of their AAT level 3 exams before they can go through and sit the endpoint. Because those AAT exams, those exams that form part of their apprenticeship, will actually then give us a very, very good idea about whether this apprentice is ready to sit their endpoint. The other thing we'll be assessing in that gateway will be reviewing that portfolio of work-based evidence and reviewing whether they have achieved the necessary knowledge, skills and behaviours for the level of their apprenticeship. So that's what's happening with the gateway, that 12 months and a day that you have to wait before you can assess whether they're ready to sit the final assessment. So what is this endpoint assessment then? Well, the endpoint assessment is actually made up of 3 different things. It's first of all made up of this synoptic assessment. This assessment which is bringing together all of the skills which they should build up over their apprenticeship, and this is their accounting skills. So you will have seen that the AAT qualification changed in AQ 2016 to have synoptic assessments at the end of each level, and in this endpoint assessment, for example, if you're doing an AAT qualification, it would be that AAT synoptic exam. So that is about the accounting, the technical accounting skills. The endpoint assessment will also consist of the portfolio, so that portfolio will need to be submitted for assessment, and it will also consist of what's called a reflective piece. Now, all of these 3 things, the synoptic assessment, the portfolio and the reflective piece, will be assessed by the awarding organisation, the apprenticeship awarding organisation. So it's not First Intuition that's going to assess this, it's an external organisation. Now that reflective piece, and reflection is quite a big part of apprenticeships, all about looking back and considering what the apprentice has done, how they could have improved and so on. That's going to consist of different things depending on what level you're at. So if you're going for a level 3 apprenticeship, so your AAT level 3, the reflective piece would be an interview, and because this is assessed by the awarding organisation, that would be an interview by them, by a panel of people. At level 4, so your AAT level 4 qualification, or your CIMA certificate, your ACCA or your CFAB, you are looking at doing a written piece, a presentation or an interview, but again, this is assessed by the awarding organisation. So the current status then of the apprenticeship standards, the apprenticeship standards has been confirmed for the assistant accountant standard and the professional accountant standard, i.e. that assistant accountant is a level 3 qualification, the professional accountant is a level 4 qualification. And in these boxes here, it pretty much just summarises what we've gone through over the last few pages. Now here, as you can see, this has been approved for delivery from May 17, and so we would be looking at signing apprentices up to the new apprenticeship standards with the next big intake in kind of August time. What has not yet been finally approved is part of the Accounting Taxation Professional Standard. That is the standard for Level 7, the full ICAW, CIMA and ACCA qualification. Now there, the standard has been approved. We know there is going to be a Level 7 apprenticeship available covering those different qualifications. What hasn't been approved is the assessment plan. I.e., we are not 100% sure yet what is going into the portfolio, what training records are required, and what endpoint assessment is required. Now, the thing there is that we know that this is a Level 7 qualification. A Level 7 qualification is akin to doing a degree, and as such, I would consider any kind of portfolio, training record, or endpoint assessment to reflect the fact that this is a much higher level qualification. And so we could kind of see the increase in complexity from a Level 3 to a Level 7 qualification. Now that is currently being developed. We expect it to be confirmed within a few months. However, again, we will let you know more information as soon as that has been confirmed, but we're hoping that this will be ready to deliver from September this year. But again, hopefully we'll receive more information about that soon. So that's a bit about the new apprenticeship requirements. Moving on then, well, why would a company, why would an organisation take on an apprentice? And I think the first thing to note is it's really giving somebody an opportunity. It's giving somebody that opportunity to either start their career in accounting or perhaps further their career in accountancy. As we said before, this isn't now just about taking on a new apprentice. It could be somebody within your organisation that wants to further their skills. I also think taking on an apprentice, taking on this person potentially with little knowledge of accountancy really does give businesses some fresh ideas and opinions about what's going on in the company. So maybe some new processes could be developed and so on and so forth, but definitely some fresh ideas that the apprentice could bring. And I think the other big reason why to take on an apprentice is what we talked about with that on-programme learning and that gateway assessment. There is much further additional help and support for that student as they study. As I said, First Intuition will catch up with that student every single month. We'll have more formal reviews every quarter. We'll help them set a study plan. And therefore, with all of that additional support, they should be much more happy to succeed in that apprenticeship. I think the next thing to think about is, well, why do the qualification as an apprenticeship? And I kind of wanted to highlight the additional achievements that an apprentice gets by undertaking their study as an apprenticeship. Now here, they will still be gaining the professional qualification and the on-the-job training. That will still happen with an apprenticeship. But the additional achievements that you get by doing it as an apprentice is all of these business skills, these soft skills, these things that I believe employers place a lot of importance on these days. This idea of time management, organising your own work, presentations, working in a team and so on. They'll be developing those skills and actually working on the ability to appraise their own work and reflect on their own work, a very key skill in the workplace. They'll develop skills beyond the traditional accountancy training. They'll be working on their management and leadership skills. And they'll be developing an understanding of the wider business environment, getting a bit more about commercial awareness and so on. And I think an apprenticeship, signing somebody up as an apprenticeship, when we sign that commitment statement at the beginning of somebody's apprenticeship, it's that student showing their dedication and their commitment to achieving their career goals. So what about apprenticeships with First Intuition then? So first of all, what will we be offering apprenticeship-wise? Now the first thing I wanted to say was with regards to the Level 2 apprenticeship, the Level 2 AAT qualification no longer being supported as a separate apprenticeship. Now, we consider that that level 2 qualification includes a lot of accounting skills which form the basis of what they would go on to study in their level 3 and their level 4 and so on. And I think it would be, we would be reluctant to put somebody through a full level 3 qualification who has no experience about basic bookkeeping and may well struggle going straight into a level 3 apprenticeship. And so the first thing we want to offer, and we're planning on offering, is that we would offer a level 3 apprenticeship which would include what's called the AAT certificate in bookkeeping. That is 2 units from the AAT level 2 covering processing bookkeeping transactions and how to deal with controls within the finance accounting system, so bank reconciliations, supplier reconciliations, so on and so forth. Those basic skills, which then, when they start the units which form the level 3 qualification, will give them a very, very good grounding to progress. For those people who maybe run internal bookkeeping courses, or maybe the apprentice that you have already has an accounting A level, or for whatever reason they do not need those bookkeeping courses, we would also run a separate level 3 AAT apprenticeship as a standalone apprenticeship. Level 4 apprenticeships then, that is your AAT level 4, your ICAW CFAB, your certificate level, your CIMA certificate, and the first few papers of the ACCA qualification will be offered as a level 4 apprenticeship. And finally, we'll also be offering the full ICAW, ACCA and CIMA apprenticeships for the level 7 there. So why First Intuition then? Well, firstly, the excellent course material that is produced. They are your one-stop shops. The students receive this course pack for every single course they attend. They do not need to go and buy additional textbooks and so on and so forth. There's course material that is produced by First Intuition. In addition, all students that study with us get access to our fantastic online resources. I think this has gone down really well with students. This is some bite-sized pre-recorded lectures, kind of 5, 10, 15 minutes that students can log in and watch and make sure they're happy with what was covered on the courses and so on. They also include loads and loads of marked assessments for the student to undertake, where they'll get feedback instantly. I think as well the other reason why First Intuition is such a fantastic place to put your students through their accountancy training and their apprenticeship is we do have brilliant pass rates. Our pass rates are generally very, very good, and we have very good progression stats, i.e. the people that progress from level 2 to level 3, level 3 to 4, and level 4 to going on to a further professional qualification is very, very good. I think the other reason why First Intuition is such a fantastic accountancy tuition provider, we do specialise in accountancy training. That is what we offer, and as such, all of our tutors here have a professional qualification, whether it's ICAW, ACCA, CIMA, AAT, we all have that professional qualification, and at the same time, we all have real-world experience. We've worked in industry, we've worked in practice, and so on and so forth. In addition, why First Intuition? Well, we would actually sit down with you and the apprentice at the start of the apprenticeship and create a study plan. And so there we can create that study plan and look at exam timings that work with you and the apprentice, so your business and the apprentice. And so there's quite a strong focus on ensuring that the apprenticeship programme that we have created for your apprenticeship really does work within your business. At the same time, it's also a very good opportunity for us as the training provider and you as the employer to kind of sit down and discuss with you what's being studied. Because it's a great idea when we can say, right, the apprentice has now covered depreciation, for example, and you as the employer can then say, right, and now they're ready to take on this part of the accounts job. And so we can work very much together to ensure that the on-the-job training and the on-the-job experience matches what we've kind of been covering in courses. As well, we can also help with recruiting an apprentice for your business and helping place that apprentice within your company. So that is also something we can help to get involved in. In addition, we keep in regular contact with employers. We do this a number of ways. Firstly, with course reporting. after every classroom course that a student comes on, we then write a report about how that apprentice, how that student got on in that course. You know, it will enable you to get a bit of feedback about how they were getting on. In addition, we ensure at First Intuition that we would catch up monthly with all of our apprentices just to make sure that everything's going okay. Have they got any questions? Have they got any technical questions? And at the same time, we undertake our quarterly progress reviews. We'll chat with the apprentice and discuss with the apprentice how they have been getting on over the last kind of 10 weeks or so. We'll be looking at the targets we set at the last progress review and ensuring that they have been met. And we'll be setting targets for the next quarter. Now, all of these things combined enable us to kind of flag any issues for apprentices as they arise. And that helps to ensure that the students stay on track and that they will actually succeed in their apprenticeship. That brings us to the end of this presentation. Did anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Well, if you do have any questions or you're interested in taking on an apprenticeship, then please do get in contact. My email address is there.